All right, so the previous video I discussed the dream. The goal was to create momentum into where I am right now and my mind to capitalize on the baby. And here, the difference between ambitious and loud. Uh, Great. Okay, so here it is. The difference between ambitious and loud. Is there a difference? I don't know. But I guess the reason why I would write that note is because at one point I would like look at myself and feel like this is all talk. And I'm not sure if this is the overthinking part in me, right? I'm not sure if that's the me just wanting to process things. But I do feel some people that have been over the past couple of months have been like trying my best to interact with the culture of business online in order for me to understand what would be my next steps if I were to kind of like start introducing myself as the person that's doing this, that's doing my software and that's doing my platform and the company and all the good stuff that come with having a startup. Uh, for those of you that are still not sure, this is a documentation. These videos are a documentation of how I am from point A, where I realized point A needs to be something that's moving instead of just kind of like living in my reality and moving into like La La Land, which is this shared common reality. And I realized at one point that I need to kind of like understand how I'm taking steps forward in order to kind of like build what I'm building. And words for me matter a lot. And I figured it'll be the best form of like social constructive kind of like proof of my existence and my thought process. And at the very least, it would basically create my presence among people. So there's the difference between ambitious and loud is I don't really think it's the goals or the visions. And the difference between ambitious and loud is not even I don't think it's even the behavior. Well, behavior, yes, maybe intention. So what's the difference between somebody being ambitious and somebody just being loud? I mean, loud about his ambitions, right? Because if I am ambitious, going towards something, if I am loud about my ambitions, all I am doing is being loud about my ambitions, right? And I saw a distinction, if I'm not mistaken, it's because of the amount of people that I keep talking to. So to be, I have been over the past 2 months, I said basically like trying to understand the world of whatever professionals I think better. And I'm on LinkedIn, I've been meeting people, talking to people, and I'm seeing a whole lot of difference between words and talk and all that kind of like stupid nonsense where you kind of want to look at somebody and punch them in the face. Because I'm not saying you don't get value. I'm just saying like, you know, if I wanted a guitar and I went and I bought a ukulele, I still bought a good string instrument that I can make music with, but I fucking wanted a guitar. And most of the people, especially the professionals, they're not selling you what you want. They're selling you what they can do. Okay, they're selling you what they know how to do. And I think that kind of like is a good analogy for this differentiation. Uh, Ambition is basically getting what you, ambition is basically applying yourself to your vision, while being loud seems to be missing something because most of the energy is going towards the voice. Being loud, I think, is more of an opinionated approach to what the vision is instead of allowing it to be its own self and be explored with itself. This isn't really confusing as much as it is like I'm trying to explain, I'm trying to elaborate. Let's go back to the guitar. Uh, if your vision is to play music, right? It doesn't really matter how you play it. But what if you refuse to play music, except if it was for the instrument that you're actually like choosing, right? Like, if my goal is music, then a piano, a guitar, a flute, all different kinds of instruments, the drums, for me, depending, I will utilize them in order to get closer to music. It doesn't really fucking matter. My goal is to play music, and so I move in that direction. I think that's true vision. That's true ambition. Whilst on the other side, being loud about your ambition is basically like, I want to play music, but I only want to work with guitar, so it doesn't really matter what kind. You, it comes with a certain limitation, and I think that limitation allows us to create a more opinionated approach towards our ambition, and that's the extra articulation, which becomes just noise. Sorry, dudes. Me saying it this way, like that's extra articulation that becomes noise, made me think of me and what I'm approaching and how I'm approaching it. So, from an intentions perspective, one is honest. Because if you're just ambitious, then you're very honest about your intention. Your intention is, and when you're honest about something, that means you take responsibility about everything concerning it. Now, I'd like to think I'm ambitious because I basically took responsibility for everything concerning what could be required for this, for the startup and business that I'm doing. Right? By the way, meet little cutie. This is the cutie that fell. But on the other side, I feel like I over kind of stretched different things for the sake of just, instead of actually diving into the things that would contribute to the overall vision, I feel like I might have kind of like neglected them at some point, or at the very least, not really followed through as I wanted. So it's funny, maybe like actually reaching your vision or reaching your goals is realizing when you're just loud about your ambition. And instead of just being ambitious, you actually have to be a bit more behaviory. Well, ambition is behavior, but then you're basically opinionated with the behavior. Like, I'm driven in this way, but being loud is basically opinionated on the articulation. And it feels like that's the key difference, right? Because being loud is the articulation of what you're doing or what you want to do, whilst and where you are about it, right? But it requires a certain level of honesty for you to be able to kind of like go past that. But the only way you go past that is through new behavior, which takes you back to being ambitious. So, in all fairness, I think our strength and our weakness is literally the in between, because sometimes we can be ambitious and we could be fully like forgetting why we're doing what we're doing because it doesn't really serve the purpose, right? It doesn't really serve the vision anymore. But on the other side, it could actually, and here's an example, like when it comes to music. When I'm being ambitious when it comes to making music, at one point I might sell out and just start playing music for people and not make music. So I learned music, my behavior, my practices in music kind of like evolved, but they started evolving for the different purpose. And I feel like this is something that's kind of like, that's the behavioral part of it, and the loud is the vocal articulative part of it. And our entirety is literally the balance of these two, because there's no way we can understand where we are unless we see ourselves to an extreme. It's the law of like nature, isn't it? So is there really a difference between being ambitious and being loud? The only difference is one is behavior and one is actual articulation and efficiency. Let's say one is a behavioral efficiency and one is vocal articulation. Yeah, why not? That seems kind of cool. And our literal vision lies in the dance in between them, right? This the swaying between like I'm working on something versus I am actually like talking about it. I'm working on it and I'm talking about it. And it's the creative part versus the dynamic like approach, like the creative aspect of it and the mundane, repetitive kind of like structural aspect of it. Hey, I think this turned out to be a good fucking video. It's a video, man, right? Woohoo!